You know what? Screw it. I've been waiting 20 minutes.
Hey!
Okay. Wow, should have checked that first. Sorry, guys. So, welcome, cinephiles. This week, we are looking at a big switch from It. So, I watched the Netflix original film Naked. This is starring Marlon Wayans and Regina Hall. This is about a man who wakes up naked in an elevator to find that he has to keep rewinding back to the moment he wakes up on the day of his wedding. Now, the trailer says it's repeated day, but in the movie they keep referring to it as repeated hour. But let's be honest, there's a lot of shit happening for this to just be an hour. So now I'm going to immediately come out and say I was not a huge fan of this movie. It's fun for a random comedy night, but let's be honest, it's kind of a Wayne's parody on the Groundhog Day trope, which isn't to say it's not a funny concept or can't be a well done concept. I'm actually really excited for Happy Death Day, which still takes the same play on that concept. But I'm frankly kind of tired of it. I'm excited for that one movie because it's doing it in a horror aspect, which is a slight change. But at the same time, I'm still tired of the trope. Now, I feel like it's been done with. Like, I'm done with it. The horse is dead. It's been beaten so many times that now there's nothing but bones left to kick around. That being said, comedy is subjective. So I do want people to still see the movie, and if you have a different opinion on it, if you've watched the movie or if you have watched the movie or end up watching the movie, by all means, if you have a different opinion, tell me, because I love hearing other opinions. If you can convince me, maybe I'll watch it again and I'll draw a different conclusion. So, speaking of love, what you love about a movie, what you don't love about the movie. Love in general is a central theme to this film. Obviously, it's a wedding film. It has a sentimentality that I didn't actually expect. Not a lot of comedy films, especially, let's be honest, Wayne's films, they don't always have a lot of those sentimental moments. And as far as I know, in this one, solely Marlon Wayans was involved. But in general, the Wayans brothers are very fantastic with comedy. But I don't find a lot of additional emotion to their films. There's subtle context and things like that, but there's not like a ton of emotional subtext or a lot of life lessons to draw from all of those films. Again, it might just be something I'm missing, but in my mind, I find a lot of theirs is just very well done comedy, but not so much subtlety. Now, this movie does have a lot of heart, and so there's a lot of really neat and touching moments kind of hidden amongst the cringy scenes, but there are a lot of cringy scenes. And because the film can be extremely predictable at times, and again, comedy is subjective. Predictability is also kind of subjective. Just because I think that I could guess what's going on in this movie doesn't necessarily mean that you can guess what's going on in this movie. So again, I do want you guys to take the time to watch this, and you can judge it for yourself. But I'm not going to do clips in this film because that's how I feel about it. And it is a relatively new film still. It just came out August of this year. So there's no reason for me to go ahead and spoil it for you by doing clips. Anytime, if I get a new movie that's only a year old, you're not going to see me doing clips. So instead of clips, we're going to do a good, bad, and ugly kind of situation. I'm going to discuss characters I loved versus characters I hated. And we'll discuss the ones that worked and why they worked, and the ones that I think were terrible. Again, if you have watched the film, if you're going to watch the film, if you come up with a different feeling about it, by all means, please share your opinions. So, we're going to put our best foot forward with these two. My pick for the best character is both of these characters. They come as a package deal, and it's a great package. Phrasing. So officers Bentley and McBride are played by Dave Sheridan and Neil Brown Jr. respectively. They are the funniest characters in this whole film, in my opinion. They don't have a huge role, but I mean, watching those two in the little scenes that they had made me feel like I really want Netflix to do an original buddy cop series of just these two. They give up some really humorous lines, and then they have this perfect subtext comedy that plays on the idea that officer partnerships are basically relationships. And I know that that's a very real thing for a lot of officers. In my understanding, that's a very real thing for a lot of people in emergency teams, period. But this one takes it to the level of well-timed comedy and also an emotional context that's appropriate for the film, that gives you this subtle background of what their particular relationship is, how strong of a partnership it is, and at the same time, this funny subcontext that maybe they're not just cop partners. You know they are, but it's still that funny humor. Now, is that something that's been done before? Of course, but this is done well. I never mind things getting repeated. There's only so many new things you can have in a movie, especially, movies like this where there's a lot of things that have been done before, but if you can do it well, you can get over the fact that it's been done before. These two, to me, they were really great, and they were either really well written, or they just had some incredible ad-libbing going, because their lines were perfect. Now, after that, though, I did like those two. He is the next step. He's not the best character, but he is a very good character. Now, the father of the bride character is also not a very unique character in wedding films, let's be honest. He's not usually very interesting because there's only so many ways the father of the bride can go. And one of the most common ways is the "you'll never be good enough for my daughter." Nobody is. And that's the context that they've put this character into. In addition, they combined the generic concept of a workaholic who barely has time for his daughter's wedding as well. And now, I point out that both of these are not new, and they're not even that interesting of character concepts, but Dennis Haysbert is who they chose to play the father of the bride. And I thought that was a very good decision. Dennis Haysbert is he's a very talented actor. He knows how to do a multitude of character types, and so he did this very well. He did a very good job combining that emotional context as well as the comedy style, and I thought that even though they picked these really common character concepts to his particular father of the bride, they still did it well just by casting him. He can pull it off to where you forget that it's a cliche and you kind of understand where he comes from, because they also put a nice background context to it that makes the character kind of make sense. Now, to me, it says a lot, again, both about his acting ability and his writing, that you don't get sick of his character, even though he's not much different than many other Father of the Bride characters that we've seen. Obviously, nobody is questioning Dennis Haysbert's acting ability, but I often found myself questioning the writer's abilities. So this particular character kind of gave me hope that maybe the writers did know what they were doing, they just kind of fell short in some scenes. So I genuinely enjoyed having him on screen. He meant a lot to me as a character. Again, he's not the best, but he was a very good character. He has some very real moments, and he actually contributes to most of the sentimentality in the film, and I really love it. I feel like he helps our main character grow quite a lot through both the means of his criticisms of him, but also just genuine, real talk. The lines they gave him were not these super ridiculous cliche Father of the Bride lines. They were kind of real conversation-like, and I appreciated that. I did. I really enjoyed it. Moving on, we have all these characters that I do really like. And then I get to the characters that didn't work quite so well. Now, okay, first of all, I have to say, I like Scott Foley. I love him. I think he's a fantastic actor. His character, though, was kind of a dud. So I enjoy the Father of the Bride character, but in my mind, one of his biggest mistakes for any Father of the Bride character is this continued super cliche of, well, I invited my daughter's super rich better looking ex to the wedding. Because who the fuck really does that? If you guys have horror stories, by all means share them. If people can send me horror stories of this stuff actually happening, I will do a whole video on just that if I get enough of them. Because that is hysterical to me that anyone is actually that petty and terrible of a person. But so in my mind, this doesn't really happen. So I really never like it in wedding movies when they do this, because to me it makes no sense. I especially don't like it here because this character in particular is a walking cardboard cutout of every ex that has come before him. Scott Foley's a great actor. Admittedly, look-wise, he's also kind of generic. He's the generic good-looking actor. It really didn't help his character to stand out for the fact that his character is a cardboard cutout and he kind of looks like a cardboard cutout. So every moment that this guy is involved in, period, in this film, I imagine you could probably guess what's going to happen from the very first line of that scene. And, you know, other characters and the other actors with their characters have proven to me in this film that they can do better. The writers can do better, the actors can do better with the scene. The director could better direct the scene. And especially because I know Scott Foley can do better. I really just did not care for this guy. I felt it was lazy. And there was only one moment that he really had an impact on the film. And that one moment, that one scene really could have been done any other way and still worked. So honestly, his character could have been written out entirely and you would have never known the difference. He was a completely unnecessary addition and it was supposed to add some further conflict to the film. I get it, but it just didn't work. It didn't work to me. One of the things I feel like I need to point out with this character that I didn't mention before, it gets mentioned early on, so it's not a spoiler, but essentially you find out very quickly that Marlon Wayans' character was sabotaged, obviously. Nobody intentionally winds up naked, stuck in an elevator the morning of their wedding. So somebody intentionally, you know, got him so drunk or drugged. That was never really, that wasn't specifically said. But somebody put him in the elevator and intentionally sabotaged the elevator to get him stuck naked inside of it. So obviously, this character is supposed to be a potential. The whole wedding is basically, nobody wants this wedding to happen except for Marlon Wayans and Regina Hall's characters, the ones actually getting married. Again, this is a kind of boring trope, but it's sort of a mix of the comedy Groundhog Day mixed with a whodunit clue kind of thing. But this character is so dull, you just don't even, like, you want to blame him immediately because he's obvious. At the same time, you don't want to think he did it because he just doesn't seem that willing to put the work in to do it. I don't know. Whether or not he did it, I'm not going to say, but I'm just going to say you spend a lot of the movie going back and forth on whether you think he did it, and it's really, he's kind of useless. Any of the characters could have done it and the movie still would have worked. Again, not saying if he did it, but the movie could have still worked with anyone doing it. But while I didn't like his character, he's still not that bad. This character cutout was the absolute worst. So this is Eliza Coupe, playing the ex-girlfriend of the groom / ex-roommate of the bride, who's now the maid of honor named Bitchy. Oh, sorry, no, it's Vicky. Vicky is the name. So no offense to Vickies out there, can we talk about how your name seems to be the go-to for the absolute worst females in existence in wedding films, or in a lot of female drama characters in general? I feel like if I was named Vicky, I'd be really pissed at Hollywood. And first of all, why is this woman even here? Like, okay, she's your friend / ex-roommate. Okay, she also dated and banged your soon-to-be husband, both of whom are clearly super uncomfortable with it. Between her obvious cynical bitterness towards him throughout the whole movie and his absolutely grossed out attitude towards her, which also, by the way, leads to some very disgusting references to their sex life, it's awkward enough that her dad invited her ex, but then she gave his ex, like, the most important role in her wedding party. Mind you, from the look of things, it might have been her only option. Apparently, these two have either zero friends or somehow in this super expensive wedding where tons of money was spent in all other aspects, they decided to still only spend money on buying one best man suit and a maid of honor and zero other bridesmaids or groomsmen. I'm not very familiar with weddings. I am married. I didn't have a wedding. I went to the courthouse. So maybe I'm just unfamiliar with how weddings work. Maybe this is a thing some people like to do for a minimalist thing, but the whole rest of the wedding was not minimalist at all. So that's why I find it odd. In general, I find it a far too convenient bit of bullshit that your only friend you give a shit about enough is your bitchy ex-roommate who fucked your fiance, and that's who gets to be your maid of honor. Now, to me, again, they doubled up the exes trope with this wedding, and I wasn't amused by it. I wasn't sold by it. Either one could have been removed, and I wouldn't care, to be honest. Hers did add a lot more humor than Scott Foley's did, but also her character was just such an absolute train wreck, like, of a person, that I'm like, why the fuck would she actually be here? She didn't seem to offer up anything to be worthy of being maid of honor or be kept around, period. They make a reference that it's because he hooked up with her and she was the bride's roommate at one time, that's how the two of them met. I still wouldn't fucking make her my maid of honor. Invited her to the wedding, sure, but I still also feel like that would be kind of a bitchy thing to do, to invite your, fiance's ex who you kind of basically took the fiance from. I don't know if I'd even invite them to the wedding. That seems like a bitch move. If I was her, I'd be kind of feeling like it's being rubbed in my face. Yeah, she just, the whole character, I really didn't care for, period. It just wasn't fun for me. So, all in all, again, the film's pretty predictable, but it does have its moments. It has moments for comedy, and it has those moments for genuine sentimental feels. The sentimental moments kind of redeem some of the cringier moments. Again, I always say, try to see the film anyways. I could be wrong. You could absolutely love the aspects that I found stupid. I am a super cinephile. I've seen like almost any movie you could think of. I'm loving that people are suggesting new movies to me, because it's very rare I find movies I haven't seen, and so these are some great movies that I'm enjoying seeing. Even if I don't particularly care for them, it's nice to have new movies to see, and some of them I fall in love with, so that's especially awesome. So again, see the film anyways. You guys might think I'm wrong on dozens of aspects. What I think is a poorly done film, you guys could think is great. And you might even change my mind if you maybe are more familiar with the Wayans brothers, if you're more familiar with wedding films in general. I'm not one for romantic comedies, period. So, I am, of course, biased. There's no such thing as an unbiased opinion, to me. Everyone can try to have an unbiased opinion. You can try and go in unbiased, but there's always going to be a little bit of something. So for this film, I'm giving it 3 stars. It's on Netflix, so if you have the service, there's no reason not to check it out. No rush at all. But go ahead and check it out. If you don't have the service, take your time. Just wait until you can jack someone you know's password. Or you can convince them to try and watch it when you're hanging out some night. There's no rush to see this. Just go ahead and do it at your own pace. But thank you all for another great week. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you tune in next week. Don't forget to send me more movie suggestions so we have our film for next week as well. Tonight we are going to be beginning Warframe Week on the actual Twitch live stream. So at 10 p.m. tonight, we're going to log on, and you can watch me attempt to pretend I still know what I'm doing with this game, because I haven't played it in a while. Also, next Monday, September 25th, we are going to be doing our special event stream in honor of hitting our 10 subscriber goal. We are going to do another special effects makeup stream with a game. The two don't have to be connected. I have been telling everyone, you guys can just pick a fun special effects concept and then pick a game you like. Or if you want it to be connected, you can pick the game you want me to play and then either you pick or I'll figure out a character special effects makeup concept that I could potentially do from it. You can see the announcement in my Discord, or I'm also going to have a Twitch panel up that's going to list the games I have available. At this time, I cannot purchase any new games, but if you know of free-to-play games, if you know of some free browser games, or if you want to be really awesome and you want to send me a game that I don't have yet, by all means, feel free. Otherwise, the games that I have are the games we have to choose from. It's a lot more fun sometimes, I think, if the special effects makeup and the game itself are connected. I understand some of these games we have played before, but, maybe we could play them again. It might be a little more fun for those who didn't get to watch me play it before. But either way, it's going to be a great time. Don't forget to send in suggestions for stuff, and we'll see you guys tonight for the beginning of Warframe Week. Don't forget, Netflix, go see the film Naked. You can watch it clothed if you want, but I mean, maybe it'll make it more entertaining. You guys have a good night.